Well, boys and ghouls, it's that time of the year again. The time of year when Bethesda releases one of the many great IP reboots that were bought from ID. For 2016, we have the soft reboot of Doom, a shooter that has been around and a staple of the genre since 1993. Doom comes to us this year from ID, the original developers, and their mission statement was to develop a shooter that harkened back to the old days. The old days of shooters, for those that haven't experienced Doom, Doom 2, or Final Doom, basically means that you're going to spend most of your time massacring enemies in over-the-top viscera, while listening to some of the most energetic and thrilling metal-inspired soundtracks. Now, if that description doesn't make you want to rip and tear through a legion of demons, I don't know what will. And ripping and tearing is what Doom 2016 brings to us in droves, and by the infernal imps of hell, it is absolutely glorious.
In their world was purely for the betterment of mankind. Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
Doom 2016 has three main options. You got multiplayer, snap map, and campaign. To start, let's talk about the multiplayer. Unfortunately, arguably the multiplayer is probably the weakest part of Doom. It is rather uninspired with a typical roster of game modes you see in contemporary shooters. It will probably make you feel like you've been there and done that, and it gives off a contemporary feel comparable to Call of Duty or Battlefield, which personally I find rather disappointing. Weapons should be spawned on the map, and players should race to them to get the upper hand, as in Unreal Tournament, Quake, or the original 3 Halo games. But thankfully for multiplayer, Doom has superb gameplay to begin with, so while uninspired, at least it is a pleasure to play. As for Snap Map, it's a slightly more interesting component. It's essentially a map editor for multiplayer matches or cooperative play, but it can be used for more abstract game modes. One such game mode I played was Harvest Doom, a game where you grow and raise imps to malevolent cacodemons and nefarious mancubi. But while abstract and interesting, there's not much content on Snap Map, so like the multiplayer component, there will be varying degrees of fun. But to be honest, boys and girls, that's not why we're here. We're here because we want to hunt the ever-living crap out of demons and fight like hell. And the harbinger of our hotly anticipated bloodshed comes in the form of Doom's campaign. The story for Doom is surprisingly basic, and honestly, it doesn't need to be very complex. To the player who dons the Praetor suit, you only have one goal: to kill all the demons and close the hell portal. And that's all that matters. And that's the gist of it, really. Playing the game for the first time, I was surprised that within a minute or two I was killing demons. But I have to say that it's really refreshing to have a prologue so short, because that's what ID knows we want, to cut to the chase and shoot some goddamn goons. Now, while at a base level Doom's story is simple, but there is a wealth of lore and interesting side bits that allude to what they might bring in for the sequel. Psst, which I'm pretty sure they're gonna develop. Doom also has a subtle sense of humor when it comes to the straightforwardness of the Doom Marine, or as we all like to call him, Doom Guy. A lot of the humor that comes out of Doom Guy is from the fact that he just doesn't care about anything. Such wacky scenarios include, "Hey, Doom Guy, don't break that Argent energy filter. The Earth needs it to live." Nope. Or, I need me the proper clearance for this door. Oh, let me just grab this scientist's mangled cadaver and scan that. The UAC facility also has some tongue-in-cheek humor when you listen to some of the recordings that the announcer has to say. But while Doom is funny in some aspects, it never gets carried away. You feel like the game has a sense of humor, but it doesn't devolve into a comedy. On to a more serious matter, the antagonist of the game, apart from the Legions of Hell, is Olivia Pierce. A cyborg lady who, instead of opening a nefarious portal to hell, should have just accepted idiopathic scoliosis. Her spiel is that hell made a deal with her and she just goes, "Oh, okay." and is fully on board with wiping out humanity to make way for more demons. Which fits perfectly as a plot hook because, surprise, we want to kill demons in droves. But nobody cares about the story in a Doom game. You're all probably wondering, how does it play? And to answer that question, my god is it glorious. Doom, similar to Wolfenstein, has a rather basic gameplay scheme. You get weapons with 2 alternate modes, you shoot at demons, frequently rip them in half, and scrounge for health drops. Doom Guy is acrobatic, you can jump across rooms, grab onto ledges, and dodge projectiles. And the mobility is great as it provides a level of, let's say, accountability for your playing. Unlike other shooters, just about every projectile can be avoided. There are no instantaneous hits in Doom. The demons all have to aim properly to hit you, and the same goes for the player. Which is great because it makes the player feel as though they got through a rough area through their own skills and finesse at wiping the floor with these demons. There's a mechanic in the game that when an enemy has a blue highlight around them, you have the opportunity to go in for a glory kill. The glory kills are over-the-top, brutal executions that produce a plethora of gore and health pickups. Honestly, I love the glory kills as a gameplay mechanic because it rewards the player for playing brutally and being merciless. There's nothing quite like being backed into a corner and the only option to survive is to rip a demon's head in half, or whip out the chainsaw and cut up a demon to get all those delicious health and ammo drops. So if you're ever in a tough spot, the answer is to be as brutal and aggressive as possible. The weapons themselves are an absolute pleasure to use and maybe apart from the pistol, never feel useless. There's always an add-on that is perfect for the moment or you just need to throw some hot lead down the range. The pacing for the weapon pickups are also great. Immediately after picking up a weapon, there's usually willing test subjects to try it on. My favorite was when I picked up the BFG 9000, then there's a dozen demon goons that turn to mush. And with new weapons come new challenges. You get too comfortable when it's too easy and then BAM! There's a new type of demon. But that's enough talking about the weapons, the enemies, and the story. Now's the time to talk about my absolute favorite part of Doom 2016, and that's the goddamn soundtrack, baby! This glorious soundtrack is brought to us by Mick Gordon, the same guy who did the Wolfenstein and Killer Instinct soundtracks. Mick Gordon went out of his way and used neat tools such as a 9-string guitar and an old Soviet synthesizer. The music is loud, heavy, claustrophobic, and right in your face. It gets you pumped up and ready to rip and tear the legions of hell apart. Scripting for the soundtrack is just perfect. It seems to ramp up at just the right points and crescendo its way up every time you get a glory kill or use the chainsaw. And honestly, there's no other way for me to describe it. You have to go and actually experience it for yourself. And that, boils and ghouls, is all I have to say on Doom 2016. It was an absolute fun romp through hell. So to end it on a high note, my score for Doom 2016 is a righteous 9 out of 10. Doom, like Wolfenstein before it, is a perfect example of what a soft reboot should be. If you have the cash to spare or can borrow it from a friend, I would 100% recommend Doom. And this is Tom the Chosen One fighting like hell, and I'll see you guys next time.